Hello friends, in this video let us learn about the different watercolor techniques that can be used while doing a watercolor painting. Here you can see the different techniques marked out which you can refer to even later on. To start with, this is a handmade paper pad that we are using, which is a handmade paper block where papers are stuck together and so it is very convenient to use. For the composition of a painting, these are the simple rules to be followed: that the horizon line should never be in the center of the paper. It should be either in the upper 2/3 or lower 1/3 of the paper, as I am indicating over here. Similarly, any subject in the drawing should never be in the center of the paper. It should be on either side of the center of the paper, as I have indicated over here. Accordingly, after marking out the composition of our painting with the help of a pencil, we use a masking fluid to mask out certain areas of our painting which we would like to keep blank, so that the paint around it can be painted evenly without having any tonal changes. This masking fluid can simply be applied with the help of a brush. Elements in our painting like tree trunks, railings can be masked out thus, wherein we paint in the background evenly on both sides, either sides of the areas that we have masked out. Very carefully we will need to paint this masking fluid onto the paper, and only after completely drying, the fluid has to completely dry before we proceed with our painting any further. Whatever areas we need to mask out will need to be painted on very carefully. Similarly, masking can also be done with the help of a masking tape. We just paste the tape onto the paper, onto the area that we need to mask out, and with the help of a cutter we just cut out the sides of the elements and remove the masking tape and retain whatever area we need to block out from painting any further, so that whatever we paint around that area can be painted evenly on either sides of whatever area we have masked out. Only after the masking fluid has completely dried, we will be starting with the actual painting, wherein now we are applying the plain wash or the solid wash, or which is also called a flat wash. Since this is the sky area, we will then be using the graded wash, wherein we pull down the color which we have already applied. Here we need to keep our paper slightly at an angle so that we can pull down the color with the help of a wet brush. Because of gravity, the color flows down easily, slowly and gradually with a wet brush each time. Wash the brush off and then pull down the color. Next we use the wet in wet technique and add the different hues of the sky while the underpainting is still wet. That is the essence of watercolor painting. Next we use the wipe out technique. With the help of a tissue paper, we just wipe out the color which we want to remove. In this case we are indicating the clouds in the sky, which is already painted. While the painting is wet, we just wipe it out with a tissue paper. Now, even as the sky area is wet, we start with the foliage of the trees. We dab color blobs within the area of the foliage, keeping in mind that the light source that we are considering here is from the center. Because of that, everything that is towards the light source will be light, and anything that is away from the light source will be dark. This will have to be followed throughout the painting always. This wet in wet technique is the very essence of watercolor painting, and which is why it is used more often. It is the more frequently used technique in watercolor painting. In this case here we are using it in conjunction with the scumbling technique, wherein we merge together different hues, different shades of colors. We merge them with each other while they are all wet. But of course, the strokes of the brush that you are using may differ from what I am using here, depending on what subject you are depicting. Here I am using the same scumbling technique, only I am using a finer brush and adding finer details using the same technique. Now I am painting in the background foliage with more bold strokes, again in the wet in wet technique, but not adding too many details. Since it is in the background, we don't want to add too many details. We continue with the same technique for the middle ground, but we may add a few more details later on as in how the painting develops. Again using the same wet in wet technique most of the time. As you can see here, we are painting over the dried up masking fluid, so that later on when we remove the masking fluid, the paper underneath is going to show through. Here now we are using the negative painting technique, wherein we are painting the darks of the background so as to bring out the lights of the foreground. This is called the negative painting technique. This is very useful for bringing out the light colored grass or light colored foliage which is in the foreground by painting in the darks of the background. For this, of course, the foreground, the light foreground will have to be painted in first, and then only we can add the darks of the background so as to bring out the lights of the foreground. We are using the drop color technique just to add interest. We are dropping more and more hues. This is the glazing technique where we add color over the previously dried up paint so that the underpainting is seen. Let us learn about the rest of the techniques in our next video, that is part 2.